This is the most dangerous fat on a man's body after 40. And here's the strange part. You can barely even grab it. It doesn't sit under your skin. It hides deep, wrapped around your organs. If you're over 40 and your belly just won't budge, you know this fight. You eat cleaner, you train harder, and the gut simply stays. Most men hear the same advice forever. Eat less, move more. But after 40, that advice quietly stops working. And here's why. This isn't ordinary fat. It behaves like an organ, alive and working against you. It makes its own stress hormones and drains your testosterone while you sleep. Over the next few minutes, I'll walk you through one ordinary day, hour by hour, and show you exactly what it's doing inside you. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Follow along. This changes everything. First, let's kill the myth. That's kept you stuck for years. The myth is simple. Belly fat is just calories in, calories out. Eat less, burn more, the belly shrinks. At 25, that was true. At 45, the same math betrays you. The rules changed underneath you. Because after 40, your belly fat isn't driven by calories at all. It's driven by signals. Hormonal signals telling your body what to do. And 3 of those signals shift at the very same time. The first is cortisol, your stress hormone. It climbs and it stays high. The second is testosterone, and it quietly begins to fall. The third is insulin, and it stops working the way it once did. Together, these 3 send your body one relentless command. Store fat. And not just anywhere. Store it deep, right around your organs. So when you slash calories, you're fighting a symptom, not the cause. The signal keeps screaming, store. That's why willpower alone always loses. To beat it, you first have to see it. So let's follow your body for one full day. 6 a.m. You're still asleep, but your body is already at work. Before your eyes even open, a surge of cortisol floods your blood. This is normal. That surge is exactly what's supposed to wake you. But in a stressed man over 40, it runs too high, and it won't come down. And cortisol does something very specific inside your belly fat. It flips on an enzyme buried inside the fat itself. That enzyme is called 11-beta-HSD1. Remember that name, because it lets your belly fat manufacture its own cortisol. Read that again. The fat makes the very stress hormone that feeds it. Researcher Per Bjørntorp proved visceral fat is packed with cortisol receptors, far more than the soft fat sitting just under your skin. So your belly doesn't just hold stress. It produces it all on its own. It's become a factory. And it's only 6 in the morning. 10 a.m. You've had breakfast. Maybe something you thought was healthy. Your blood sugar rises. So insulin is released to store the energy. Insulin's job is simple. It carries one message to your cells. Store. But here's the trap. That springs shut after 40. Your visceral fat makes your cells go deaf to insulin signal. So your body panics and pumps out more and more and more. And all that high insulin slams a double lock onto your fat. One enzyme, lipoprotein lipase, forces fat into the cell. A second, hormone-sensitive lipase, is the only key that lets it back out. And high insulin switches that key completely off. So fat pours in, and the only exit is welded shut. This was mapped by Gerald Reaven, who named insulin resistance itself. He showed it's the engine behind the entire metabolic syndrome. And while your insulin stays high, That fat is chemically locked in. No diet, no workout can pry it open. The lock has to come first. Evening now, and this is where it turns genuinely cruel. That belly fat you've carried all day is holding another weapon. An enzyme called aromatase, and it has just one job. It takes your testosterone and converts it straight into estrogen. So the more belly fat you carry, the more testosterone you lose. And the more estrogen you make, the balance tips the wrong way. Less testosterone means less muscle, slower metabolism, easier fat gain. And more fat means even more aromatase. Do you see the trap forming? More fat, more aromatase, less testosterone, which makes even more fat. It's a loop that tightens a little more every single year. Clive Longcope documented this exact conversion happening inside fat tissue. This is the trap that quietly closes on millions of men after 40. The fat lowers the one hormone that could actually burn the fat. And almost no one ever realizes the loop is even running. 2 a.m. The house is silent. And suddenly, you're wide awake. No reason, no noise, just staring at the ceiling. That's not random. It's your broken cortisol rhythm, firing too early. And now comes the multiplier, almost no one talks about. A landmark study from the University of Chicago revealed something brutal. Just one single week of 5-hour nights dropped healthy young men's testosterone by 10 to 15%. That's like aging more than a decade in a single week. And while you lie there awake, all three drivers move at once. Cortisol climbs, insulin sensitivity drops, testosterone falls off a cliff. Every villain in this story attacking together in the dark. Sleep is the master switch. Break it, and you break all three. That work came from researchers Leproult and Van Couter. So by now, you might be thinking, this all sounds hopeless. A self-feeding organ, a chemical lock, a hormone loop, broken sleep. But here's the good news I promised you. It is not hopeless, because every single one of these signals can be switched back off. You just have to do it in the right order. Order is everything. The mistake almost everyone makes is attacking the fat directly. You don't attack the fat. You shut off the signal, telling it to grow. And there's a sequence. Cortisol first, insulin second, testosterone third. Move 1. Calm the morning cortisol surge. Everything sits downstream of it. Step into daylight. Within 30 minutes of waking, it anchors your clock. And push your first coffee back by about 90 minutes. That keeps caffeine off a cortisol peak that's already too high. Move 2. Bring your insulin baseline down. And no, not a crash diet. You simply give insulin. Long, quiet stretches to fall. A clean overnight gap with no food is the easiest place to start. Then add a 10-minute walk after your 2 largest meals. That single walk pulls fuel into your muscle instead of your belly. Move 3. Rebuild your testosterone. And now, it finally gets easier. Because cortisol and insulin are calming, the aromatase loop is already slowing. Now, strength training 2 or 3 times a week becomes your engine. It lifts testosterone and burns visceral fat at the very same time. But never forget the order. Cortisol, then insulin, then testosterone. Each move clears the path for the next one to actually work. Do it backwards, punishing workouts while cortisol is sky high, and you pour fuel onto the exact fire you're trying to put out. That one mistake is why most men over 40 stay stuck for years. But get the order right, and the body that fought you starts working with you. So here's where this leaves you right now. You've watched what this fat truly does inside a man over 40, across one full day, hour by hour, hidden in plain sight. And you've met the three drivers behind all of it: cortisol, insulin, testosterone. But one of them fires first, before your eyes even open. And next week, I'm opening up the cortisol belly completely. Why stress parks fat in this exact spot, and why it tightens, not loosens. If your own body finally made sense today, subscribe and tap the bell. I'm building this channel, one piece of your biology at a time, and it works best when you watch them in order, start to finish. This is Protocol 40. I'll see you in the next one.